Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Daily Soul Bytes show. I am your host, Bola Abimbola. And happy new 2024, everyone. It's really nice to be here. And I would like to show appreciation to all of those who have been supporting us and commenting. I'd like to invite you to subscribe and share so we can have more of this content shared to everyone far and wide. And today, well, first of all, this show is really about interviewing expert authors and entrepreneurs and coaches who will share their insights for the expansion of collective consciousness. And today, my guest is Justin L. Shore. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And I will say a bit about Justin before we start. Justin L. Shore has uncovered his unique gift of communicating and communing to the quantum field and downloading timely messages while being on his own emotional healing journey. Inquisitive and introspective since his early years, he always knew he was different, and one day he'd serve humanity as a way shower. He's devoured books written by the ancient spiritual teachers and practiced the principles until he developed his own method called sorcery. So,
So what I've created is 13 rungs to higher elevation. So basically, if you utilize these 13 rungs, day-to-day basis or as best as possible, um, you're gonna you're gonna get a better perspective on life, and you're just gonna have more joy in your life. And so it's there. So like the 12 steps of AA, I know not everyone knows that AA 12 steps, but they're all very important to keep in order. You can't work, you can't jump steps. Whereas this one, like every step is equally as important. So I wouldn't say one,
okay.
there's no, like rule book to say, you have to follow this step and then do this step. They're all equally important. Um, and I use 13 came to me because it is the number in tarot. It represents transformation, which is the whole point of this whole thing. Anyone who's reading my book probably isn't having the best time of their life. I wrote this book in not a great time of my life because I'm searching for answers. I'm searching to feel better, and I needed some assistance in that area. I always like to say, transformation is an extremely difficult and painful process. Just ask any werewolf. Like it's a tough thing, but it's well worth it, certainly. Like I said, there's a various step-by-step 13 level program to the book, and then I'm building a program around the book as well as meditations and stuff like that, which has been hugely influential in my life and being able to come up with this stuff. Everything in the book, like I really can't take credit for. I'm very proud of it, but I almost can't take credit for any of it because either I've heard it from an amazing spiritual teacher or it got downloaded me from source. So it's hard for me to take credit for any of it, but I'm very proud of it.
So, what are the steps? Take us through the steps.
So the rungs are so you're going to start at um, one of the most important ones is creating awareness. So if we're not aware of our actions, aware of ourselves, we're not going to have a great time. I'm constantly asking, questioning myself, why am I doing things? Because we're walking computers, we're programs. And if we've been programmed the wrong way, it leads us to a really crappy life. If you were let's say a child of abusive family, you were beaten or whatever, that's going to create a lot of fear, which is going to affect you the rest of your life. You're going to be running, you're going to be scared and running for your entire life without the awareness of knowing that what you're running from isn't real. That it's not happening in real time. It's been recorded in your subconscious and now plays out whenever a certain scenario even remotely reminds you of that situation. It immediately plays out. I mean, it's an amazing system we've been given with this whole, like subconscious thing. But it absolutely can go haywire, and it can really screw up our lives. So one of the most important ones is this awareness factor. The second one is kind of how to find the awareness, because meditation is something that's been harped on a lot, um, but it really is one of the most important thing you can do to start your day, because what you're doing, you're almost mining your self-conscious when you're meditating. You're finding stuff, you're figuring out stuff. There's no way to figure out yourself if you can't stop for a minute and just feel and think and just absorb. So the meditation portion of it, it's one of those things like, you can't see the label when you're in the jar. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of, the whole observation theory is fascinating to me, because the scientists say, if you're not observing a particle, it turns into a wave. If you're not observing yourself, you turn into a wave, and so all of a sudden you're not yourself, you're not your house, you're not your clothes, you're not your car. You're now unified with the universe and this whole oneness, that's part of it. So I I like I like to think of it as a glass of water being poured back into the ocean. It's like you've been separate and held differently, your whole life, and then all of a sudden you get poured back into the ocean. It's like, oh, okay, this is what it's like. So, I don't think we have time to go through all 13 of them necessarily.
4 steps.
Um,
The main four. Tell us the main
the
four
main four, the
steps.
main four. So, okay, so
Yes.
the next one would be so understanding. So
Mm,
understanding is critical, like especially when we go through hard times and we're dealing with very hard people. Um, if you can understand someone, not fully, you don't have to know exactly what they've been through, but you kind of, when you meditate for a while, you kind of know that everyone's recovering from something. Everyone. And how they recover from it, some are better than others. Like I don't, when I'm recovering, I've had some very hard, it wasn't a great childhood, and then I've had several things happen in the last few years that are just really difficult. And if I react to someone that has nothing to do with those situations, like, I'm not doing right, like, but there are people who just don't understand that. So understanding someone and, trying to get that, like, maybe this person is, has been through this or that, or they might be having a hard day. Maybe their mother died yesterday and that's why they're being a jerk to me, like having some sort of understanding. I mean, it can even extend, to like, groups of, people that just completely lose their minds and they want to be destructive and violent. Um, but that's the way they were raised. So, like, it doesn't condone or accept any sort of bad behavior. Anyone who does anything extreme and bad, and there has to be punishment and repercussions. So I'm not saying like just, like, whatever. But I have in my book that no one is born good or bad. Nobody. Everyone is born a complete clean slate. Totally. It is up to there are some genetic components in it, but like, very, very minor. What really shapes people is the environment they're raised in. So, a lot of the genetic things and illnesses, these are all spiritual maladies. Yeah, they can be helped by pills and things like that, but at the core of it, it is a spiritual malady that is creating the disease in the mind, the disease of, cancer in the body, like bipolar, schizophrenia, all these other things. It's dis-ease in the soul that is causing disease in the body. So understanding things is a huge one. And then I'd say the fourth one that I'd say is the most important, that I love to harp on people on, and like something that I've gained some good insight on, is instinct versus intuition. So people get those confused all the time. Instinct is kind of a fear-based reactionary emotion that like, and we need it. It's not a bad thing. It's certainly not a bad thing. Like if you're walking down a, creepy street and there's someone behind you and you kind of get the shivers and, use that. That's your instinct. Get out of there. But a lot of people like myself who've been through some really tough things, their instinct level has been risen now, and now everything is fearful. So they're using their instinct for everything, and it's not it doesn't work out very well for them. They'll leave situations that are maybe healthy for them. They'll make impulsive decisions that aren't a good idea. Um, Instinct can become a real problem.
Mm,
For normal people, instinct is very good and useful, but many of us, our instinct level has been turned up far too high, and we're constantly using her. And people say, "Oh, I use my instinct." Well, in some situations that's correct, but other situations they're just confusing it for intuition. Which intuition, and I've got kind of a method in my book, is when you stop, you slow down, you take 5 really deep breaths, clear, it's very important, like clear your mind of what's frazzling it at the moment. And then you ask yourself a question. You put your hand on your heart and you ask yourself a question, whatever you're thinking, whatever decision you're thinking about. And before you even answer the question, before you ask the question, the answer is there. That is the answer source would like you to do. That is the easiest route. And a lot of times it's the route that we don't want. It's
mm,
something that we'd rather the other decision. And that's why we fight it in our heads. Like, okay, my instinct told me to do this, but no, I don't know if I should do that. But I want to stay here. And I don't, like, and so we then run the heart through the brain, and the brain jumbles it up and messes with it. But if we just listen and just say, okay, that's a decision, and just move forward with it, amazing things will happen. It doesn't mean that if you make the wrong decision, bad things will happen. Like Source will bring great things out of all of it. But when Source is talking to you to go a certain direction, go that direction.
mm,
So it's something I've been learning and kind of training myself. And like it, you really will never make a wrong decision again if you kind of have this method of like clearing your mind, asking yourself the question, and going with the first answer. You're
mm.
going to have a lot less stress. You're going to have a lot happier life. Um, yeah, and these are all things that I've kind of experienced on a day-to-day basis since I've started writing all this. So,
I think that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You have done a lot of work, and it's very obvious in these steps. I know it's only the four of the 13 steps, but I can
mm,
already see that it's the beginning of reconnection to source, the beginning of just allowing oneself to become less dysregulated, that self-awareness, the meditation, the understanding, and just having that intuition. All those four steps are powerful, and I really commend you for transforming and being able to, because it's one thing for us to read about these things and go through it, it's another thing for us to actually now lay it all out and have a method to it. And I love some of the things you said about you cannot see the cover if you're in the jar. You really have to step out of that place of the physical ego self to begin to immerse yourself in that higher self. Because this is really our true self-worth. True self-worth. Or how would you define? I would love to hear your definition of true self-worth.
but the whole point of this um, book is to create worthiness. Which, so here's the deal. I read The Secret when I was a little bit after college. My dad gave it to me. He's kind of into that whole like meta world. He's like, read this book, and I read it, and it impacted me, and I thought it was great. I created a vision board. I was like, okay, I'm thinking about what I want. But nothing is changing. And I started talking to people about it, and it was like, well, do you feel worthy of what you're asking for? I didn't have an answer. I don't even know what feeling worthy. I didn't. what do you mean? Like, I don't even know what that feels like. I have no idea. I guess not. Um, so that kind of originally planted the seed for kind of this of creating this self-worth. And once you create that self-worth, the world is anything can happen. Anything can
What does
happen. Like,
self-worth mean to you? What does it feel like to you?
so now coming from a place of no self-worth, I have a lot more confidence in myself. So there's a big difference in between kind of, cockiness and confidence, right? That's a thin line, but it's very obvious when you meet a confident person, a cocky person. A cocky person is extremely insecure, has no self-worth or no worthiness whatsoever, but they can pretend pretty well. Um, Someone who doesn't, can or someone who has that self-worth doesn't need to prove or show that they have worth. It just is apparent and obvious. And it's a feeling inside you that you are constantly loved, you are never alone,
Mm,
and there is something out there that is helping and guiding you along your way.
mm,
Um, and knowing that creates a, because worthiness is not about like, oh, I did a good job today. Oh, like I had a great day at work. I'm feeling worthy. I it's not about that. It's about it's just this knowing that something is behind you at all times, and you can
yeah.
have confidence, you can have worthy, and you're worth the things you're wanting. A lot of people just don't understand, like there's so many good manifesting things out there, starting with The Secret and everything, and those do work, but for so many it didn't work because the formula that they use, they don't really get into like, like, oh, you have to feel worthy of what you're asking for.
Sure.
Well, expand. Like, well, what is that? I don't know. Like so many of us, like, I don't know what that means. I have no idea. I've never felt worthy a day in my life. So the worthiness factor is what this whole thing is aimed at, certainly.
And your book, so I think that's a great description of worthiness. I love that. Thank you for that. What is your book about? Sorcery 101. Tell us about that.
So it is an introduction into sorcery. So sorcery, you're gonna hear that word and you're gonna think of like cauldrons and Eye of Newt and rat tails. Stirring it. It's not that kind of sorcery. It's a bit of a play on words. I use what we're using in order to create worthiness is source energy, SOUCER, or spell check generation. I'm not very good at spelling, but so it's spelled with a U instead of a SOR, it's SOUR. Because we're using source energy to create this worthiness within us that can not only open doors and make things happen in terms of like things in life, but the most important thing that I'm after is the feeling that it's going to create when you feel worthy. What you
Mm.
do with that afterwards is up to you. Like if you're able to use my book to create some worthiness, and then you can move on to The Secret and start manifesting houses and cars and all kinds of stuff.
But
Um,
if you can just, tell people why you wrote this book, a bit of your background about, from what made you want to put this together, you know, what made you
yeah.
want to
Oh,
put this
it's a
together
great
in.
question. Great question. I wrote this because I've been through horrible trials and tribulations in my entire life. Like, I have never felt worthy a day in my life until recently, really. Like when I really started like gaining, I had some amazing experience in meditation, right? So um I've had massive drug and alcohol issues in my past. I've had, horrible anxiety and depression and all whatever things you want to label. It's been rough. but I had this, my dad, who was nice enough to kind of hire in a friend of his to come in, who's very familiar with the shamanistic arts. He came in and did these meditations, and I was like, oh, this meditation thing is cool. Like I kind of like this. But one day in meditation, I had the craziest experience. I was just sitting there like meditating, and all of a sudden, it was like Source turned my airplane mode off. So everyone's familiar with airplane mode on their phone, right? Like you turn on airplane mode. What happens in airplane mode? No messages, no texts, nothing comes in, right? And so this moment of my life felt like airplane mode was taken off. And all these things start coming down to me, and all these like truths and like this worthiness and like this, like God loves you, and all these things that are happening in society and what we're doing wrong, and like we're separate. We just constantly see separation, and the unity is everything. Unity is in power, and all these all these things started coming to me, and that was kind of the moment I was like, wow, I need to tell people about this. And then I was fascinated that I could go online and not find a bunch of information about the unified field, which, I mean, God goes by many names, but the unified field is a very scientific one. But it is the field that binds the universe together. It is made up of every living creature, and it binds the universe together. But if you don't know it's there, you can never use it. Like if you didn't know the cloud existed, you wouldn't be able to store information and get information and utilize it in the way that it should be. Um, so that moment is what really changed things. And then from then on, it's been helping me in my own recovery to write this book, to create this program, to get out to people. Um, I have a good ability to connect with people, and I'm also a former stand-up comedian. My anxiety issues took me away completely from that whole dream, so I thought my life was over. But apparently it's morphed into something different that I can still use those skills.
Mhm.
Um, but the main thing that I wrote this book and why I want to get it's because it sounds like altruistic. It's like I want to get out and help people and do things, but the fact of the matter is it helps me in my own sobriety and my own health to reach out and help others. So one could see it as altruistic, but in another way you could see it as completely selfish, but it's really not that selfish because I am trying to help other people, but it in turn does absolutely help me.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. And really, whatever we put out there reflects back to us. This is the dynamic nature of the unified field. There is such a, everything around us is just waveform, and it only becomes solid matter when we observe it. So
Yeah.
everything around us is just waves, and we are, we exist alone, really, in this universe, and we are creating everything as solid matter just by our perceptions and our beliefs. So this is really powerful how you have turned those experiences that you have had um, just by changing your beliefs and your perceptions within you when you receive that download. And I wanted to ask, are you continuing to receive the downloads even now? Are you opened up now in that intuitive way, or is that something that you no longer do?
Yeah. Oh no, I meditate. I'm not gonna say every single day. There are days when I get busy or I miss, but I mean, like I meditate, nearly every day. And and the thing with meditation is there's no such thing as a bad meditation. I mean, like it, and a lot of times some of my meditations are very painful and it hurts, but the pain is just weakness leaving your body. So I'm never going to
Mm,
stop meditating. But there are meditations that come to me that are truly transformative. There are
mm,
days when it's just relaxing and it's nice. There are days when it sucks. But then there's days when they're transformative. And this one that I'm talking about um was a 3 hour meditation that felt like 15 minutes. And not only was I getting information, but I was emotionally taken to the other side. I was not physically there at all. I didn't see it. I was not physically there at all. But Source gave me not only these downloads and this important information, but gave me the feeling of bliss and love and what it feels like to be on the other side. So this is not a near death experience. I wasn't there. I didn't experience. I, it was simply an emotional, like, here's what it feels like to die. So now, not to be suicidal, but it's like there's no fear of death, like after this experience, none at all.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
I mean, I used to be terrified of it because it's the unknown.
True.
We're terrified of
True.
the unknown.
True.
Yeah. So it's so nice not to have that. I still have other fears and I have anxieties, like like these things I deal with don't disappear upon one or two meditations, but they continually to get better and better and better after lots of practices. So, I mean, if you think about it in the terms of like everyone can relate to the physical body very well. So if you look at it like going into a gym, um, like the first time I was meditating, I felt like I weighed 300 pounds and had never worked out a day in my life. But after time and time and time, like your body gets, you start to lose weight, you start to feel better, your muscles start to form, and it's the exact same thing with the mind. It's just people seem to understand that metaphor better because like people don't really understand the mind as much as they understand the body. So I try to use that
True.
metaphor because people get that. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that makes sense.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing this a very amazing journey. And it is a journey for all of us. We are all on this journey of healing and transformation so that we can continue to live our best lives. So thank you for sharing that. Where can people find you, Justin, when they want to reach out?
Um, yeah, so we just kind of launched our, I was about 3 years ago, I deleted all of my social media and everything because it just wasn't healthy for me at the time. So we're just now I just relaunched my Facebook page. Um, Social media it depends on what you're using it for, just like anything. It can be good and it can be bad. But
Sure.
certainly if you're using it for the right reasons, it can be an extremely useful tool. So I just got back on Facebook. You can go on the website and there's a link there, but it's Justin L. Shaw on Facebook. And then the website is my initials, which is JLS, and then SOURCEry. Just make sure you spell it with a U, O,
So
S
it's
O U C E R
SOURCER.
Y. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
So
Yeah.
it's
So
JLS Sorcery. So there's two S's, JLS Sorcery.
yeah. The S's kind of run together there. So yeah,
Okay.
JLS SOURCEry. Dot com, and you can
Okay.
find me there. Yeah, we like I said, we just newly relaunched the website. I just finished the book a couple days ago. I'm just trying to get ahead of things a little bit before it's launched out there. But I'm pretty excited at where this could go and lead because I think it can help a lot of people.
Sure.
I could have used this, like when I was struggling, 10 years. I mean, I've had some stuff happen in the last few years, but I have a different perspective on it now. So, like, the things I'm going through now aren't impacting me as much as they would have been 10 years ago. So, like, I'm still going through hard times. I'm not saying your life is going to be roses forever.
Ups and
I still go
down.
through stuff, but I have a
Mm.
different perspective on it, which helps me sleep at night, helps me maintain my normal day. Like it doesn't destroy me and keep me in bed for days like it used to. So, and that's what I'm hoping is that like, if you encounter hard things, you'll have tools.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining me today, Justin. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
And I'd like to thank all our guests. Thank our audience for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next episode of the Daily Soul Bites Show. Bye bye.